Captain Jake Morrison stared at the view screen as his ship drifted through empty space near the Kepler 442 system. The UES Horizon had been exploring this region for 3 months without finding anything interesting. His crew was getting restless, and supplies were running low. Jake knew they would need to head home soon if they did not discover something worth the long journey. Dr. Lisa Carter walked onto the bridge carrying her tablet and looking excited. She had been studying the sensor readings all morning and found something unusual on the third planet of the system. The planet showed no signs of life, but the deep scans revealed strange geometric patterns buried under centuries of dust and rock. The patterns were too regular to be natural formations. Pete Williams looked up from his engineering station and confirmed that the planet was safe to approach. The atmosphere was thin but breathable with protective suits. There were no energy signatures or signs of current habitation. Whatever had created those patterns was long gone. Maria Santos at the communications station reported complete silence from the planet. No radio signals or electromagnetic activity of any kind. The world appeared to be completely dead and had been that way for a very long time. Jake made the decision to investigate. They had come too far to ignore what might be the first alien ruins humanity had ever discovered. He ordered the ship to enter orbit and prepared a landing party. The mission parameters allowed for archaeological investigation if they found evidence of extinct civilizations. The landing shuttle touched down near the largest geometric formation. Jake led the team with Dr. Carter, Pete Williams, and 2 security officers. The structures were even more impressive up close. Massive stone blocks fitted together with perfect precision formed complex patterns that stretched for kilometers across the desert landscape. Dr. Carter ran her scanners over the nearest structure and gasped at the readings. The stone was not natural rock, but some kind of artificial material that her instruments could barely identify. The construction showed no tool marks or signs of how it had been assembled. The blocks seemed to have been formed in place using technology far beyond human understanding. Pete Williams found what appeared to be an entrance partially buried in sand. The doorway was sealed with a smooth barrier that looked like metal but felt warm to the touch. His engineering scanners showed complex mechanisms behind the barrier but no obvious way to open it. As the team worked to clear the entrance, something unexpected happened far across the galaxy. On the capital world of Nexus Prime, 3 alien species that had ruled space for 50,000 years gathered in emergency session. The Zephyrians were tall beings with large heads who could read minds across vast distances. The Korthak were artificial intelligences housed in mechanical bodies that could calculate possibilities faster than any organic brain. The Vex were warrior creatures covered in natural armor who had conquered hundreds of worlds through pure military might. Elder Zephyrian Kith Voss reported disturbing visions to the Council. A young species had found the forbidden sites that the 3 powers had kept hidden for millennia. The sites contained knowledge and technology that could upset the careful balance of galactic civilization. The young species was humanity, and they were about to make a discovery that would change everything. Back on the dead world, Pete Williams finally found a way to interact with the entrance mechanism. When he placed his hand on a specific section of the barrier, it recognized his human biopattern and began to dissolve. The team stepped through into a vast chamber filled with devices and structures that defied explanation. Dr. Carter's instruments went wild as they detected energy patterns unlike anything in human science. The chamber was not just a room, but some kind of massive computer system that had been waiting in standby mode for millions of years. When the humans entered, systems began activating throughout the complex. Maria Santos, back on the ship, detected a sudden energy spike from the planet surface. The ruins were coming alive and transmitting signals in all directions. She tried to contact the landing team, but their communications had been cut off by some kind of interference from the activated systems. Admiral Connor Blake on Earth received the first transmission from the UES Horizon about the discovery. He was reviewing the initial reports when encrypted messages began arriving through secure channels. The messages came from unknown sources and all carried the same warning. Humanity should abandon their expeditions immediately and stay within their own solar system. The messages provided no explanation, but the tone was urgent and threatening. Jake Morrison found himself standing before a massive crystalline structure in the center of the chamber. The crystal pulsed with inner light and seemed to be scanning him and his team. Pete Williams detected that the entire complex was now drawing power from some unknown source and transmitting data across interstellar distances. Dr. Carter realized they had activated something far more significant than simple ruins. The complex was a beacon designed to announce when a species had reached a certain level of development. By entering the chamber, humanity had just informed the entire galaxy of their existence and capabilities. The three old powers on Nexus Prime received the beacon signal and knew their worst fears had come true. Another species had found the precursor, sites, and awakened the ancient systems. They would need to act quickly before humanity learned too much about the secrets the galaxy's rulers had kept hidden for so long. Dr. Lisa Carter spent days analyzing the data from the crystal structure while the UES Horizon remained in orbit around the dead world. Her findings were beyond anything humanity had imagined possible. The ruins belonged to a civilization called the architects who had ruled the galaxy millions of years before any of the current alien powers existed. The technology they left behind was so advanced that it made human science look like stone tools. Pete Williams worked with a team of engineers to understand the beacon system they had accidentally activated. The complex was not just broadcasting humanity's location, but also downloading massive amounts of information directly into their computers. Star maps showing hundreds of hidden worlds, technological blueprints for devices that could reshape matter at the atomic level, and energy systems that could power entire civilizations. The most shocking discovery came when Dr. Carter found records, indicating that the architects had not died out or been destroyed. They had evolved beyond the need for physical bodies and uploaded their consciousness into their technology. The beacon was designed to find species worthy of inheriting their knowledge and continuing their work. Captain Jake Morrison received urgent orders from Earth to return immediately with all data from the site. However, Pete Williams convinced him to stay longer when his scans revealed additional architect facilities buried deeper in the planet. Each new chamber they opened contained more advanced technology and clearer records of galactic history. Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, the three ruling species argued about how to handle the human problem. Supreme Oracle. Thess 9 of the Zephyrians demanded immediate action. Her psychic powers had shown her visions of humans wielding architect technology and challenging the established order. She wanted the human homeworld destroyed before they could learn more. Synthesis. Prime Unit 447 of the Korthak disagreed with such direct action. The artificial intelligence calculated that destroying humanity would only create more problems. Other young species would wonder why the humans had been eliminated and might start investigating precursor sites themselves. Better to capture the humans and assimilate their knowledge while keeping them controlled. War Master Grix Toll of the Vex wanted to demonstrate the consequences of disturbing the galactic order. A show of force against humanity would send a clear message to any other species that might be tempted to explore forbidden areas. The warrior believed that fear was the most effective way to maintain control. Back on Earth, Dr. Kevin Ross led a team of scientists in analyzing the data transmitted from the UES Horizon. Working with physicist Dr. Amy Chen and engineer Danny Liu, they began reverse engineering the architect technology. The results were astounding and terrifying at the same time. The architects had developed technology that could manipulate fundamental forces of the universe. They could create matter from energy, open doorways through space and time, and even alter the basic laws of physics in localized areas. Most importantly, their technology required a specific type of neural interface that only certain species could provide. Dr. Chen made the breakthrough discovery that human brain patterns were uniquely compatible with architect systems. The chaotic and unpredictable way humans thought was exactly what the ancient technology needed to function properly. The rigid mental patterns of most alien species could not provide the flexibility required for true integration with architect devices. Colonel Ryan Murphy received orders to lead a stealth mission to secure additional precursor sites before other powers could interfere. His ships were equipped with the new technology derived from architect blueprints. The adaptive shielding and quantum engines made human vessels far more capable than they had been just weeks earlier. On the dead world, Jake Morrison and his team made contact with an architect consciousness still active within the beacon system. The ancient being communicated through a combination of direct neural interface and holographic display. It revealed that the three current galactic powers had built their entire civilization on stolen architect technology while preventing other species from accessing the same knowledge. The architect explained that the Zephyrians, Korthak, and Vex had discovered precursor sites thousands of years ago when they were young civilizations themselves. Instead of sharing the knowledge as intended, they had formed an alliance to monopolize the technology and eliminate any species that might challenge their control. They had been systematically destroying architect sites and suppressing younger civilizations for 50 millennia. Dr. Carter learned that hundreds of species had been eliminated or enslaved when they showed signs of developing advanced technology. The three ruling powers maintained their dominance through a combination of superior weapons derived from architect science and careful manipulation of galactic politics. Pete Williams successfully downloaded the complete database from the beacon before it automatically shut down to prevent detection by hegemony forces. The information included locations of thousands of hidden architect facilities throughout the galaxy and detailed specifications for technology that could revolutionize human civilization. The UES Horizon finally departed for Earth carrying knowledge that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. As they traveled through hyperspace, Maria Santos detected ships following them at extreme range. The old powers had located the human vessel and were moving to intercept before it could reach the Sol system. Jake Morrison realized they were now in a race against time. The beacon had not just announced humanity's discovery to the galaxy, but had also marked them as a threat to the established order. The three ruling species would do anything to prevent humans from sharing architect technology with other civilizations. Dr. Ross on Earth coordinated with research teams across the planet to prepare for what was coming. The data from the beacon showed that humanity was not just discovering alien technology, but inheriting the legacy of the galaxy's greatest civilization. The architects had been waiting millions of years for a species capable of using their knowledge properly. As the hegemony fleet closed in on the UES horizon, both sides prepared for a confrontation that would determine whether humanity would join the galactic community as equals or be destroyed to preserve the old power's monopoly on ancient knowledge. The awakening had begun, and there was no going back. The combined fleet of the three old powers approached the Sol system, expecting to find a primitive civilization with basic space travel. War Master Grixtol commanded the operation from his flagship, supported by Zephyrian mind control vessels, and Korthak computational battle cruisers. They planned to make an example of humanity that would discourage other young species from seeking forbidden knowledge. Captain Jake Morrison now commanded the UES Defiance, one of 12 human ships, equipped with reverse-engineered architect technology. The adaptive shielding systems could adjust to any type of weapon, while the quantum disruptors could punch through armor that had protected hegemony vessels for thousands of years. Most importantly, the human crews could interface directly with architect systems in ways the old powers had never achieved. The first engagement occurred near Jupiter as the hegemony advance force encountered the human defense fleet. Admiral Connor Blake coordinated the battle from Earth, while Captain Morrison led the front line. The alien commanders expected easy victory against primitive human technology, but found themselves facing weapons and defenses they did not understand. Zephyrian. Psychic attacks that could crush the minds of most species had no effect on human crews protected by architect neural dampeners. Korthak computer viruses designed to disable enemy systems were blocked by quantum firewalls that operated on principles beyond their understanding. Vex plasma cannons that could vaporize conventional armor barely scratched the adaptive shielding of human vessels. Dr. Kevin Ross monitored the battle from his laboratory on Earth while continuing to decode architect databases. Each new file revealed more about the true nature of galactic civilization and the lies the old powers had built their empire upon. The architects had intended their technology to be shared among all worthy species, not hoarded by a small group of rulers. The battle turned when Pete Williams successfully activated the quantum displacement system on the UES Defiance. The ship vanished from normal space and reappeared directly behind the Hegemony flagship. Before the alien commander could react, Morrison fired a focused graviton beam that tore through the vessel's hull like it was made of paper. Dr. Amy Chen made a breakthrough, discovery that changed everything about the conflict. The architect consciousness embedded in their technology was not just providing information, but actively helping humanity fight against the species that had perverted their legacy. The ancient beings wanted to see their knowledge used properly, and were guiding human development accordingly. On Nexus Prime, the three ruling species watched their advanced fleet being destroyed by creatures they had dismissed as barely civilized. Supreme Oracle. Thes-9 attempted to use her most powerful psychic abilities to influence human minds across interstellar distances, but found her efforts blocked by architect defenses. Synthesis. Prime Unit 447 calculated that their fundamental understanding of human capabilities had been completely wrong. The artificial intelligence began modifying its strategic models while coordinating with remaining Korthak forces to develop new tactics against architect-enhanced technology. The hegemony retreat gave humanity time to prepare for the larger conflict. That was sure to follow. Colonel Ryan Murphy returned from his deep space missions with data on 12 additional architect sites. Each facility contained more advanced technology and clearer records of what had really happened when the old powers first discovered precursor ruins. Dr. Carter led teams to several newly discovered architect complexes within the Sol system. The ancient civilization had hidden facilities throughout human space, waiting for the right species to activate them. As more sites came online, human technology advanced at an exponential rate. President Helen Davis addressed the United Nations about the new reality humanity faced. They were no longer alone in the universe, but had also made enemies of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. General Chris Baker briefed world leaders on military preparations, while diplomats tried to understand what terms might be possible with alien rulers. The most disturbing revelation came when Dr. Ross discovered records of what the hegemony had done to other species that had found architect technology. Hundreds of civilizations had been completely eliminated while thousands more had been reduced to slavery or primitive conditions. The old powers had maintained their control through systematic genocide and cultural destruction. Commander Tony Garcia led reconnaissance missions to map hegemony territories and identify potential allies among the oppressed species. His stealth ships, equipped with architect cloaking technology, could observe alien worlds without being detected. What he found convinced humanity that they were fighting for more than just their own survival. The architect consciousness revealed that the three ruling species had never been able to fully integrate with precursor technology. They could use basic functions, but lacked the neural flexibility needed for true synthesis. Human minds, with their chaotic creativity and unpredictable thought patterns, were exactly what the ancient systems had been designed to work with. Danny Liu successfully interfaced with an architect manufacturing system and created the first fully integrated human precursor hybrid device. The weapon could adapt its output to any target, becoming a cutting tool, energy projector, or defensive barrier as needed. More importantly, it could only be operated by someone with human neural patterns. As news of the Sol system battle spread, through underground networks, resistance movements on oppressed worlds began planning coordinated uprisings. The galaxy had lived under hegemony rule for so long that many species had forgotten what freedom looked like. Humanity's successful defense gave them hope that change was possible. The old powers prepared for a full-scale war while trying to maintain control over their existing territories. Zephyrian mind controllers worked overtime to suppress rebellion on subject worlds. Korthak computational networks calculated resource requirements for extended conflict. Vex military commanders began mobilizing the largest fleet in galactic history. Jake Morrison received intelligence that the hegemony was planning to bypass human defenses and strike directly at Earth using a weapon that could destroy entire planets. The device had been created from corrupted architect technology and represented everything the ancient civilization had tried to prevent. Dr. Ross and his team raced to develop countermeasures while human fleets prepared for the coming assault. They had awakened something far larger than themselves and now faced the consequences of challenging an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. The real war was just beginning. Commander Tony Garcia's stealth reconnaissance revealed something unexpected during his deep space missions. Several younger species throughout the galaxy had been secretly developing anti-hegemony technologies while pretending to remain loyal subjects. The aquatic Talari from the Rigel system had created biotechnology that could hide from Korthak sensors. The crystalline Sivak from Vega had developed quantum communication networks that the Zephyrians could not intercept. Ambassador Carla Johnson received the first contact from these resistance movements when a coded message arrived through channels that should have been impossible for aliens to access. The transmission came from a Talari scientist named Kef Dao, who had been monitoring human activities since the beacon activation. His people had been waiting decades for another species to challenge the old powers. The message revealed that the resistance networks included dozens of species across hundreds of worlds. They had all discovered fragments of architect technology over the centuries, but had been forced to hide their findings to avoid the fate of civilizations that had been too open about such discoveries. The hegemony's standard response to any advanced technology was complete destruction of the species that created it. Dr. Lisa Carter worked with Talari biotechnicians to develop hybrid technologies that combined architect knowledge with organic engineering principles. The results were revolutionary devices that could adapt to any environment while remaining completely undetectable to conventional sensors. Living computers that could think and grow, biological shields that became stronger when attacked, and organic weapons that could evolve to counter any defense. Pete Williams coordinated with Sivak quantum engineers to create communication systems that operated outside normal space-time. The crystalline beings had natural abilities that complemented architect technology in ways that purely organic species could not achieve. Their hive mind structure allowed for perfect integration with quantum networks spanning entire star systems. The first joint operation occurred when Captain Ellen Foster led the UES Vanguard in a coordinated strike with resistance forces against a hegemony research facility in the Tau Ceti system. The station had been conducting experiments on captured members of younger species, trying to understand why some beings could interface with architect technology while the old powers could not. The assault revealed the horrifying extent of hegemony, atrocities. Dr. Carter found laboratories where Zephyrian scientists had been dissecting the brains of psychically sensitive species. Korthak researchers had been experimenting with forced cybernetic integration to create hybrid organic artificial beings. Vex military units had been testing biological weapons designed to target specific genetic markers. Admiral Connor Blake coordinated the expanding alliance from Earth, while President Helen Davis worked with resistance leaders to establish the framework for a new galactic government. The species joining the alliance brought unique capabilities that enhanced human architect technology in unexpected ways. Each successful cooperation proved that the old powers' divide-and-conquer strategy could be overcome. Danny Liu made breakthrough discoveries when he began working with CVAC quantum specialists. The crystalline beings could perceive dimensional structures that were invisible to organic senses. This ability allowed them to map the complete architect network throughout the galaxy and identify facilities that had remained hidden for millions of years. The Resistance uncovered evidence that the hegemony had been systematically destroying historical records to hide the true nature of galactic civilization. Before the old powers gained control, hundreds of species had shared knowledge freely and worked together on projects that spanned entire sectors. The current system of rigid control and enforced ignorance was a recent development in galactic terms. Dr. Kevin Ross discovered that the architect consciousness had been trying to contact worthy species for millennia, but had been blocked by hegemony interference. The old powers had developed technology specifically designed to prevent younger civilizations from accessing precursor sites. Every beacon that activated was immediately detected, and the responsible species was eliminated before they could learn too much. Commander Garcia led joint strike teams that included humans, Talari, CIVAC, and representatives from a dozen other resistance species. The diversity of the alliance became its greatest strength as each species contributed abilities that the others lacked. Talari biotech could infiltrate any organic system, CIVAC quantum manipulation could bypass any barrier, and human creativity could find solutions that rigid minds missed. The hegemony response to the growing alliance was swift and brutal. Entire worlds that showed signs of rebellion were subjected to orbital bombardment. Populations that could not be controlled were relocated to prison planets where they could be monitored constantly. The old powers had ruled through fear for so long that they knew no other methods of maintaining control. Maria Santos coordinated the underground communication networks that allowed resistance cells to share information across vast distances. The quantum channels developed with CIVAC. Assistance could not be intercepted or blocked by hegemony technology. For the first time in millennia, oppressed species could coordinate their activities without fear of detection. The Alliance achieved its first major victory when Captain Morrison led a combined fleet in liberating the Centauri colonies that had been under Vex occupation for 300 years. The population had been forced to mine rare minerals for hegemony war machines while living in conditions that barely supported life. Their freedom demonstrated that the old powers could be defeated on their own territory. Dr. Amy Chen worked with resistance scientists to develop new applications for architect technology that the ancient civilization had never envisioned. The combination of human creativity, Talari biological engineering, and CIVAC quantum manipulation created hybrid systems that were more powerful than any single species could achieve alone. The growing success of the Alliance forced the three old powers to work together more closely than they had in centuries. Their individual approaches had failed against the unexpected cooperation between species they had kept separated for millennia. Supreme Oracle, Thes-9, Synthesis Prime Unit 447, and War Master Grixtol began planning a coordinated response that would eliminate the resistance once and for all. Intelligence gathered by Tony Garcia revealed that the hegemony was preparing to deploy their ultimate weapon against the Alliance. The device had been created by corrupting architect technology and could destroy entire star systems. The old powers planned to make examples of resistance strongholds to demonstrate the futility of opposing their rule. President Davis addressed the Alliance Council about the coming threat while Admiral Blake prepared defensive strategies. They had awakened the galaxy from millennia of oppression, but now faced an enemy willing to destroy everything rather than lose control. The real test of whether the Alliance could survive was about to begin. The Hegemony Council faced its first internal crisis in 50,000 years as news of Alliance victories spread across their territories. War Master Grix Tull broke from the traditional cooperation between the three powers, declaring that the Vex military could handle the rebellion through pure force. His massive fleets began independent operations against resistance strongholds while ignoring coordination with Zephyrian and Korthak forces. Supreme Oracle. Thes 9 retreated to the core Zephyrian worlds with her most powerful psychic warriors. She began preparations for a mind assault that would affect every conscious being in the galaxy simultaneously. The technique had never been attempted before, but the Oracle believed that breaking the will of all Resistance members at once was the only way to restore order. Synthesis. Prime Unit 4A47 calculated that the traditional hegemony approach was no longer viable and began secret negotiations with human representatives. The artificial intelligence offered to share Korthak computational technology in exchange for access to architect databases. The proposal created divisions within the Alliance, as some members wanted to reject any cooperation with former oppressors. Commander Alex Stone led the largest human fleet ever assembled toward Nexus Prime, while Resistance forces launched coordinated attacks across 12 sectors. The plan was to strike at the heart of hegemony power, while their forces were scattered, responding to uprisings throughout their territory. Each battle drew away defenders from the capital, while Alliance technology proved superior to anything the old powers could deploy. Dr. Kevin Ross worked frantically with the artificial intelligence Atom 7 to activate the galaxy-spanning architect network before the hegemony could deploy their ultimate weapon. Atom 7 had been created by merging human consciousness with architect quantum computers and represented the first true hybrid intelligence in galactic history. The AI could interface with precursor systems at levels that purely organic minds could never achieve. The discovery that the hegemony superweapon was actually a corrupted architect facility shocked the Resistance leadership. The old powers had been feeding the ancient system incorrect data for thousands of years, turning a device meant to create life into something that could destroy entire worlds. Dr. Amy Chen realized that the weapon could be restored to its original function if they could access its core programming. Captain Jake Morrison volunteered for the most dangerous mission of the war when intelligence revealed the location of the corrupted facility. His ship, now equipped with the most advanced hybrid technology available, would need to penetrate the heaviest defenses in the galaxy and reach the weapon before it could be used against Alliance worlds. The battle for Nexus Prime began when Alex Stone's fleet engaged the remaining hegemony forces in orbit around the capital world. The engagement quickly escalated beyond conventional warfare, as both sides deployed reality-altering technology that bent the laws of physics in localized areas. Space itself became a weapon as quantum distortions created pockets of accelerated time and gravity wells that could crush entire squadrons. On the planet's surface, Resistance infiltrators led by Commander Tony Garcia fought through the capital city toward the Central Command Complex. The urban warfare was unlike anything in galactic history, as architect-enhanced forces battled hegemony defenders who had ruled through superior technology for millennia. Buildings became weapons, streets turned into battlefields where energy and matter could be manipulated at will. Dr. Carter coordinated with Talari biotechnicians to counter the Zephyrian psychic assault when it finally began. The mental attack affected billions of beings across the galaxy, but the hybrid organic quantum defenses developed by the Alliance protected most Resistance members. Instead of breaking the rebellion, the failed psychic assault revealed the location of hidden Zephyrian facilities throughout their territory. Pete Williams led a team of engineers in a desperate attempt to reach the core of the corrupted architect facility while Jake Morrison's fleet fought through waves of automated defenses. The ancient system had been programmed to protect itself from any interference, but the hybrid human architect technology could bypass security measures that had stymied the old powers for centuries. The turning point came when Morrison made the ultimate sacrifice to save the galaxy from destruction. He merged his consciousness directly with the corrupted facility's central computer while the system was preparing to fire. The combination of human creativity and architect logic allowed him to rewrite the weapon's programming in real time, transforming it from an instrument of death into a beacon of liberation. The restored facility sent signals throughout the galaxy that activated dormant architect systems on thousands of worlds. Populations that had been suppressed for millennia suddenly found themselves with access to technology that could free them from hegemony control. The psychic control networks that had kept species obedient for so long were overloaded and destroyed by quantum interference. Adam 7 coordinated the global awakening from his position within the galactic network, ensuring that newly activated architect systems would be used for construction rather than destruction. The AI had learned from human examples that true strength came from cooperation and growth rather than domination and control. War Master Grix made a final stand with his remaining forces at Nexus Prime but found himself abandoned by his former allies. The Zephyrians had retreated to their core worlds, while the Korthak were negotiating surrender terms with the Alliance. The warriors' rigid military thinking could not adapt to a situation where traditional tactics were useless against opponents. Who could rewrite reality? President Helen Davis broadcast a message to the entire galaxy, offering amnesty to any hegemony forces that laid down their weapons and cooperation to all species willing to join the new Galactic Federation. The address was transmitted through every communication system simultaneously, reaching populations that had been isolated from outside contact for generations. The battle ended when Alex Stone's forces overwhelmed the last hegemony strongholds, while resistance uprisings liberated hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. The old power's reign of terror was finally broken after 50,000 years of oppression. However, intelligence reports indicated that Zephyrian extremists, led by surviving oracles, had escaped to unknown regions beyond the galactic rim. Dr. Ross made the final entry in his research logs as Alliance scientists began the massive task of sharing architect knowledge with all willing species. The ancient civilization's dream of galactic cooperation was finally being realized, but the universe held mysteries that would challenge the new Federation for generations to come. The Seat awakening was complete, but it was only the beginning of humanity's cosmic journey. 6 months after the fall of the hegemony, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The Galactic Cooperation Council met on the neutral world of Haven, a planet where representatives from hundreds of species worked together to build a new form of interstellar government. Unlike the old system where 3 powers ruled through fear, the Council operated on principles of shared knowledge and mutual cooperation. Dr. Kevin Ross now directed the Precursor Research Institute, a massive organization dedicated to safely sharing architect technology with any species that wanted to use it peacefully. The institute operated research stations throughout the galaxy, where scientists from dozens of worlds worked together to understand ancient knowledge that had been hidden for millennia. Captain Ellen Foster commanded the first joint species exploration fleet as they ventured into regions of the galaxy that had been forbidden under hegemony rule. Her crew included humans, Talari, Sivak, and representatives from 20 other species who had joined the Alliance. The diversity of the fleet was its greatest strength, as each species contributed unique perspectives and abilities. The exploration missions revealed that the Architect Network extended far beyond what anyone had imagined. Ancient facilities were discovered in neighboring galaxies, suggesting that the vanished civilization had spread across multiple star clusters before evolving beyond physical existence. Each new discovery raised questions about what other intelligences might exist in the vast universe. Some members of the old powers had adapted surprisingly well to the new galactic order. The former Synthesis Prime Unit 447 had chosen to call itself Marcus after working closely with human scientists. The artificial intelligence had discovered that cooperation produced better results than domination and now helped coordinate technological development across species barriers. Dr. Amy Chen worked with Marcus and other reformed Korthak units to develop new applications for hybrid technology. The combination of artificial and organic intelligence created systems that neither humans nor machines could achieve alone. Their joint research stations became models for cooperation that other species began to copy. However, not all former hegemony members accepted the new order peacefully. Zephyrian extremists, led by the surviving Oracle, Thes-9 had established bases in the void between galaxies where they planned their return to power. Intelligence reports suggested they were developing weapons that could affect entire star systems through psychic manipulation. Admiral Connor Blake commanded the Joint Galactic Defense Force that protected the new Federation from internal and external threats. His fleets included vessels from every member species, each contributing technologies and tactics that had been developed in isolation under the old system. The diversity made the Defense Force adaptable to any challenge. President Helen Davis signed the Galactic Cooperation Charter in a ceremony broadcast to billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. The document established principles of shared governance, technological cooperation, and species equality that directly opposed everything the hegemony had represented. It was the first truly democratic government in galactic history. Danny Liu led research teams that were pushing the boundaries of what architect technology could achieve when combined with the innovations of multiple species. Telari biological engineering merged with CVAC quantum manipulation and human creativity to produce devices that seemed like magic to civilizations that had been suppressed for millennia. The liberation of former hegemony territories revealed the true extent of the old system's crimes against younger civilizations. Entire species had been reduced to slavery while their homeworlds were strip-mined for resources. Reconstruction efforts led by the Alliance were slowly restoring damaged ecosystems and helping traumatized populations rebuild their cultures. Commander Tony Garcia worked with reformed intelligence services to monitor threats to the new galactic order while ensuring that the mistakes of the past were not repeated. The surveillance systems were designed with built-in limitations that prevented any single group from gaining too much power over others. Dr. Lisa Carter discovered that some architect facilities had been designed specifically to help species recover from catastrophic events. The ancient civilization had apparently anticipated that their knowledge might be misused and had created safeguards to restore balance when necessary. These recovery systems were now being activated throughout former hegemony space. The most significant discovery came when exploration fleets found evidence of civilizations that predated even the architects. Structures and energy signatures that were millions of years older than anything previously discovered suggested that the galaxy had experienced multiple cycles of rise and fall among different species. Maria Santos coordinated the vast communication networks that allowed hundreds of species to share information freely for the first time in galactic history. The quantum channels developed during the Resistance had been expanded into a comprehensive system that could reach any inhabited world within hours rather than the years required by conventional methods. Pete Williams worked on the massive engineering projects required to build infrastructure for the new galactic civilization. Space stations larger than small moons served as meeting places where species that had never had contact could learn about each other safely. The construction techniques combined architect knowledge with innovations from dozens of different technological traditions. Admiral Blake received the first reports of strange signals from the galactic rim that suggested something beyond the known universe was taking notice of recent events. The architect awakening had apparently attracted attention from forces that existed outside normal space and time. The implications were both exciting and terrifying. Ambassador Carla Johnson established the first diplomatic protocols for contact with unknown intelligences after several exploration fleets reported encounters with beings that did not fit any known category of life. The universe was apparently far more complex and populated than anyone had imagined. As the first year of the new galactic order came to an end, President Davis reflected on how much had changed since Captain Morrison's team had first activated an ancient beacon on a dead world. Humanity had gone from an isolated species to leaders in a galactic community that included thousands of different forms of life. Dr. Ross made the final entry in his research logs as he prepared for the next phase of exploration beyond the galaxy itself. The architects had left clues suggesting that consciousness could exist on scales and in dimensions that physical beings could barely comprehend. The awakening that had begun with human curiosity was leading toward discoveries that would challenge every assumption about the nature of existence itself. The new galaxy offered unlimited possibilities for growth and discovery, but it also held dangers that the Alliance was only beginning to understand. The old powers had been defeated, but they represented just one cycle in a pattern that might be far older and more complex than anyone suspected. Humanity's greatest adventures still lay ahead among the stars.